Hello everyone, Rurikon here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, and today I'm going to be talking about patch 5.3. Now I realize that I'm considerably late to the party with this particular topic, and the main reasoning behind that is because the leading up to patch 5.3 is actually one of the main reasons why I ended up creating this channel. Now, as you guys may or may not know, I started playing this game for real last year. Now, I had dabbled in it during its beta stages of the Realm Reborn. I dabbled during the release, and I also played during the release of Heavensward, but for some reason or another, it never ended up really clicking until last year. I said, you know, I'm really going to play this game, pay attention to the story, play the whole thing, play through the whole expansions, and really just experience the entirety of what this game has to offer. And sure, I became very much invested in the story of the game and the characters of the game because I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the gameplay. So, you know, I did the whole thing, played through the expansions, did the raids, all of that in normal mode. But, you know, when I got to the ending of the story, I took a break. And then in the leading up to patch 5.3 is when I was like, you know what, I want to check out the story in patch 5.3. So I should get in on it, you know, a little bit ahead of the patch. And I started engaging with stuff like leveling alt jobs and, you know, doing old content for stuff like mounts or finding some particular glamour that I enjoyed and trying out some of the content, actually doing some of the raids to get some of the gear, properly upgrade my character, materia meld my stuff. I started kind of like, you know, doing the min-max thing and just trying to really engage with the endgame activities of the game. And that's the point at which I realized, you know, I really want to have like an outlet where I can just talk about my experiences in Final Fantasy XIV. And the main channel is just not going to do this kind of content justice because most of the people that go to main channel, they go for Monster Hunter or Dark Souls, which is perfectly fine because I love those games as well, right? But Final Fantasy XIV content just wasn't flourishing as much as I would like to there. So I just decided I'm just going to do a separate channel, and that's kind of like how we are here now. But anyway, if you ever wondered why I started this channel when I already have another channel on YouTube, that is the main reason, because I just want to be able to talk about Final Fantasy XIV without having to worry about things like the algorithm or whether or not people are watching the video. You know, it's not really going to be a big deal at the end of the day. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about patch 5.3. And the first thing that I really like about this patch is actually something that doesn't even really affect me personally anymore. But it is the fact that they expanded the trial, and that's one of the main reasons why I've been doing, I think at least 2, maybe 3 videos telling people you should really try out this trial and explaining why you should try out the trial of Final Fantasy XIV. Because what they ended up doing with this patch is they expanded the trial. In case you haven't seen one of the previous videos, they expanded the trial to include the Heavensward expansion, which is a fantastic story. And I really like that because it made it a lot easier for me to recommend the game to friends. Because, like, look, you don't know if this game is for you or not. Just go ahead and try it. It's free. And now they include one of the best stories that this game has, free to experience. Whereas previously, the trial ended right before you did Titan, which the trial ended on what is potentially one of the worst quest lines in the whole game, which is the stuff that happens before Titan. Like, it's so bad. Like, I'm sorry, but the grind ahead of Titan is just completely ridiculous. Just a bunch of quests that I don't remember anything that I did on those quests, and I read all of them, but my brain's like, let's delete all of this grind because that was completely atrocious, right? And not only that, but they also streamlined what happens after Realm Reborn as well to make it a little bit more digestible for newer players. So it's just like overall improvements that really make the experience better for newcomers to Final Fantasy XIV. And that's always one of the concerns that I have about any multiplayer game that I end up playing. I always end up being a little bit concerned, like, what's the new player experience like? Is there a big hurdle that they have to go through? And any lessening of that hurdle is something that I really, really enjoy. So when talking about patch 5.3, the trial expansion is potentially one of my favorite things about the whole patch. So I guess that the next thing is we kind of have to dive into MSQ. Before we do, though, if you're curious about like the other contents of this patch, there is naturally more MSQ story. There is a new dungeon. There is a new trial, which is connected to the MSQ. There is a special thing about the weapons, so to speak, the G Warrior section. Some of you will know what I'm talking about, some of you won't. Let's just say that there's a particular quest that's so friggin' mecha anime that it is really, really, really awesome. And at least personally, I really liked it, even though it's mechanically and gameplay wise, it's nothing too special. But like what they've done in terms of the cutscenes and in terms of what you do in that quest, I thought was really creative and really cool. There's also a new Alliance raid, which is themed around Nier. And there's also a new Beast tribe, which is about dwarves, the dwarves of the first. But, you know, to kind of prevent going any further into any of these topics without warning people, we are going to be talking about spoilers of the MSQ. So if you have not played through patch 5.3 and you don't want to get spoiled, then I would advise you to like click away at this point in the video. Thank you very much for showing up. But, you know, in order to talk about the patch, one of the things that we're going to have to talk about is naturally the MSQ. So in 3, 2, 1, spoiler warning is over and we're going to dive right into it. So naturally the MSQ was straight up the first thing that I did. Now there were a couple of teases right at the beginning of the MSQ. There is a tease for a potential new job that might be coming with the next expansion, which is the apothecary. Because there is this child that says, oh, I want to help out the people and I want to become like a hero, but I don't want to be like you guys. I want to help out and I want to be an apothecary. And a lot of people are theorizing that that could potentially be one of the jobs that we will see in the future. People are also saying maybe it will be a chemist. Maybe it will be a geomancer, which is something that has been teased before as well. Hell, because of one of the bosses that shows up in the new dungeon, people are even theorizing that one of the new jobs might be a necromancer, which I'm not exactly sure how that would work with the systems of Final Fantasy XIV, but I could see them do it, so we'll see if any of these jobs actually pan out. But anyway, we start the MSQ doing this quest with some of the kids in the first, and kind of like, it almost feels like you're passing off the baton to the next generation because your character is, for all intents and purposes, leaving the first. And even though you can come back, your Scion companions are technically speaking not able to come back once they make the journey back to the first. So I thought that was kind of cool. You know, you're seeing what things are going to be like for the next generation as you try to figure out what to do next in regards to Elidibus and all that stuff. And naturally, the things start happening, and you eventually are confronted by Elidibus as he kidnaps Ishtola. And that particular sequence I thought was really, really cool because he kind of puts you up a bunch of copies of characters that you have seen throughout the game. Like a really powerful scene was right at the beginning when you're back in Amaro, and there's like 3 of the, you know, the ancients in these counters, and they just replace the 3 ancients. Elidibus replaces them with the 3 Adventurers Guild NPCs, and I was just like, whoa. Like you see Momodi, Badaron, I think is the name of one of them, because like most of the time I spent with Momodi, but Modi, Badaron, and the other NPC in Gridania, which I never go to the Elven place. Like, really, who even goes to Gridania? I mean, have some self-respect, people, okay? But anyway, you know, he shows you those people, and I was like, holy crap, what the hell's going on? And then you actually have to fight some of the Scions, and you have to fight some of the characters that are essentially your friends. And it's all an interesting story that is told there, where he's just telling, like, you just murder everyone in your path, doesn't even matter who they are. But they really don't give you a choice. You kind of have to kill them to progress the quest. For a second there, I thought that they were going to have you kill Arshenfall. And I was like, dude, if you do that to me, don't even there. They didn't. They didn't go there. That would have been bad. Like, if they made me kill Arshenfall in that particular quest, I would have been really mad. There were already several characters that I had to kill that I did not appreciate, but, you know. And then at the end of it, Elidibus just kind of like fights you as Albert. And did I say Albert? I meant Ardbert, obviously. But, you know, you beat him, and then he says, oh, if I manage to give you a run for your money, imagine what I can do to your friends. It's kind of like a veiled threat. And then he goes away. But I thought that particular moment in the story was really well done. But anyway, as we fast forward through things, naturally the Crystal Exarch, along with Beck Lug, I believe is the name of the fairy that is helping him, they're still trying to work on a way to, you know, to get the Scions through back to the source, you know, with the crystals and the transports and all of these things. And basically, as you are running through the realm trying to figure out a solution to deal with the Solidibus problem, you end up running into these summoned Warriors of Light. And you're like, oh, these Warriors of Light kind of look like the same spell that the Crystal Exarch used to summon us into the realm. Even though what really clicked for me was that he does that summoning thing right before you fight Emmett Selk. And I was like, oh, this definitely looks like the Crystal Exarch thing, but the Scions are the ones saying, oh, looks like the same magic that Crystal Exarchs used to summon us onto the first. So naturally, you want to make your way back to the Crystarium to see what the hell is going on and why are these Warriors of Light being summoned, and also why are they attacking us. And this is when you go into the new dungeon, because essentially you get a ship from Yulmore and you end up crash landing somewhere in Amarang, and then you have to make your way through the new dungeon. Now, in terms of the new dungeon, while we're here, I might as well talk about it. I really like the new dungeon. I like the music. I like the fact that, you know, these Warriors of Light are being summoned, and it's really cool because you're just kind of like fighting through waves and waves of Warriors of Light, and it does build up. This whole thing of you engaging with all of these Warriors of Light, it builds up to the point where you eventually then meet with the Exarch and you go to the tower and there's like tons and tons and tons of Warriors of Light being summoned from all over the place. I thought that was a cool concept, even if it did make for a slightly less interesting dungeon, because a lot of the assets of the dungeon are kind of just like reused locations from Amarang, from Ilmeg, and what's the name of the other place? And from Lakeland, because those are the three locations that you kind of go through. You get teleported and pushed along through NPCs and whatnot. But it is really cool to kind of see all of these characters that you interacted with throughout Shadowbringers coming in to kind of help you. So like, if you remember the people that were working on the trolley all the way in Amarang, they show up to help you during the Amarang section. Then during the Ilmec section, you have the Fae folk, the fairies show up to help you, and I forget her name. I can't believe I forgot her name. But you know, the one who calls you Sapling, she shows up as well, who's currently like the king of the queen of the fairies, or the king of the fairies, or whatever you call her. And she shows up, she helps you out to go through the whole thing. And eventually you end up in Lakeland, where you actually meet the people that you did your job quest during Shadowbringers. And by the way, really epic scene in the dungeon, which I actually only like a couple of days I noticed this, because usually when I'm going through a dungeon, and particularly if I'm tanking through it, I'm paying more attention about, you know, the health of my enemies, my own rotation, because I'm still not a top tier player. Like, I still have to look at my bars from time to time and whatnot. I still don't have everything committed to muscle memory just yet. But, you know, it doesn't let me pay too much attention to every single detail that is taking place in the dungeon. But recently I noticed that in the final stretch of Lakeland, there's a final pull of mobs where you have this paladin dude that does passage of arms to the two people that are behind him, which is really cool, by the way. Passage of arms is potentially my favorite animation in the whole game. But he does that, and then there's a character that just like breaks that paladin to a pulp. And I hadn't noticed what character it was, and then I saw, holy crap, it's Jot. Jot, who is the character that accompanies the healer job quest during Shadowbringers, because, you know, you guys know I've been leveling an Astro, and I'm currently actually leveling a Scholar, because I'm not a huge fan of what the Astro animations at Endgame, but, you know, I still do like Astro gameplay. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I knew who Jot was. I had done all these quests with her, and I thought it was really cool that she was there, but I didn't know that she was the one that beat the crap out of that paladin. And the cool thing is that during the healer quest, at one point your character blacks out because of the echo, if I remember correctly, and there's an enemy that shows up, and she tells, but you know, the enemy is not there when you wake up, and Jot just tells you, oh yeah, I gave it the dwarven decking. And then during the dungeon, they show you what the dwarven decking is, even though I've been told by more experienced players that that's simply the limit break 3 of a monk. But I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. It's cool as hell that you actually get to see Jot do the dwarven decking. It's such a nice little detail. And that's one of the things that you can usually tell about Final Fantasy XIV, is that the developers really like their game because they give you all of these minute details inside the game, like things that maybe a lot of people won't notice. But, you know, if you're someone who's done these quests and you find some things about these quests interesting, then you'll know about, oh, the dwarven decking. And then you actually get to see her do it because she says it's a secret technique. Nobody can know about it. And it's just really cool because you see a lot of these little details spread throughout multiple sections of Final Fantasy XIV. And even as I'm telling you guys about the MSQ and the sections that I enjoyed and all of that stuff, I'm sure that I'm missing out like millions of details that other people will come, oh man, but what about this thing? You didn't talk about this thing, which is cool. And let me know in the comment sections about the things that I did not talk about. And we can all have like a discussion about that stuff. But anyway, after you go through the dungeon, which, like I said, I did enjoy the dungeon. I do enjoy the dungeon quite a bit, but it would have been cool if they would have shown us through different areas that maybe we hadn't been through yet, and seeing our allies fight in those areas as well would have been pretty freaking sweet in my opinion. But anyway, at the end of the dungeon, after you defeat the final boss, you and your party find yourself surrounded by warriors of light that are just like getting summoned all over the place. And as you and the other scions turn to face these warriors of light, you know, the other scions tell you, no, you have to go to the Crystarium to speak to the Crystal Exarch to see what's the deal with all of these summonings. And I thought that was a really cool scene. I mean, as per usual, the Scions making the sacrificial play and staying behind while your character does like the main objective that you set yourself out to do is kind of like a traditional thing that happens in a lot of the story of Final Fantasy XIV. But it was just another one of those moments that I thought was pretty damn cool. So you then go through Lakeland and you encounter the Crystal Exarch, who says that basically Elidibus has been using the tower to summon all of these warriors of light. And at this point, you are left kind of wondering because I don't remember exactly when it's explained. I think it's later during the trial. But Elidibus is essentially summoning these people from other shards, and he's not really summoning them fully. And you know what happened to the Scions, right? When they were summoned partially. And even that was like a much more thorough summoning from the Crystal Exarch. They were summoned partially, so it kind of like severed their souls and they become weak with time and their bodies are like withering away over at the source. Then imagine what is happening to these other warriors of light where he's not even summoning them properly. He's just summoning their essence, and that summoning is giving him power. And also imagine what are the consequences for the souls of these warriors of light that we are essentially butchering for all intents and purposes, because we just cut a path through all of these warriors of light and they think they're here to kind of like help the first, to save this world, and they're just getting cut down by the warrior of darkness and the Scions of the Seventh Dawn on the first. It's this really interesting thing when you think about it, because it's just like, well, what's happening to these? Are they dead? Are they souls getting fractured? Like, are we causing them severe harm wherever they come from? Because at the end of the day, these are heroes, just like us. It does give you a lot of stuff to think about. But anyway, the Crystal Exarch tells us, Elidibus is using the tower to summon all these people, using my knowledge of the tower. And the Crystal Exarch is messed up. Like, he's just completely crusting up in crystal form. Like, you guys know, if you've played enough of it, you've seen that the crystal kind of like starts consuming him the more he uses the power of the tower. But basically you and the Crystarch team up and you go towards the tower, which there's another very important story point, which is when the Crystal Exarch, for all intents and purposes, says goodbye to Lina, who is the dancer, the captain of the Crystarium Guard, or whatever. It's a very touching moment because, you know, they say goodbye without necessarily saying goodbye. But yeah, there's a lot of really powerful moments in 5.3. Like, there's just, the MSQ is just extremely well done. There is a section that when we get there, I'll talk about it, that it wasn't my favorite thing ever, but you know, it is what it is. But anyway, we then move on, we go to the tower, and in the tower, we end up facing off against Elidibus, but not before another one of these sacrificial moments takes place. When you're running through the tower, you're just trying to get to Elidibus as fast as possible, and the Crystal Exarch trips over, and there's like, you know, hundreds of more warriors of light start spawning in. And Crystal Exarch, once again, is like, no, you need to go ahead, and you need to go deal with Elidibus. I'll take care of this. And you know that the Crystal Exarch is completely messed up at this point in the story. Like, he's almost like full blue from the crystal stuff. But he still makes the sacrificial play, and then he tells you, oh, don't worry, this isn't the last you've seen of me, because I am yet to reveal my strongest card, and I want to make sure that you're there when I do it. And you know, those were moments in the story that I was like, holy crap, what the hell is he even gonna do? It's gonna be completely insane. But anyways, you do the trial, and speaking of the trial while we're at it, I thought the trial was pretty cool. It was significantly more challenging than the normal trials that we have done up until this point. And I'm not talking about the Savage version. I've attempted the Savage version a couple of times, but ultimately, once again, it's one of those things of the time commitment that is required for you to do Savages, and I just don't feel like investing 2 hours in Party Finder to try and, you know, figure things out with one group, only to then go through the same 2 hours with another group. I'd love to have a static to do this type of content, but ultimately, whenever I have free time to raid, it's usually too late for most of the statics that raid in my server cluster. Like, it seems to me like most statics are raiding, like, I think 6 p.m. until like 10 p.m. And that's prime time for me, you know, taking care of my kids when they get home, shower them, put them to bed, all of that stuff. So I can't raid at that time. But, you know, I'm still always on the lookout for a late night, and I am, again, in the Chaos Cluster, but I'm still always on the lookout for a late night static group to do this type of content. Because if it's not in the static, then I'm not super interested, because, again, repeating content over and over 2 hours at a time is not the thing for me. But anyway, I like that trial. That trial was a lot of fun. It's also really cool that finally tanks get to use their LB3, which is like the first time ever that I saw, for me personally, it's the first time I've ever seen an encounter that actually requires tanks to use their limit break. Like, you see healers using their limit break whenever things are going sour, but most of the times, you know, the limit break is for the DPSers to finish off the boss, to make things end. And a fight where you actually get to use the tank's limit break, I was like, hells yeah, dude. Finally, friggin' finally, there's a reason for this thing to exist. Also, sorry, I smacked the microphone. But anyway, I really enjoyed the trial. I thought it was cool. I also really enjoyed the extreme version, what I did of it. Again, I didn't finish it, but what I did of it I thought was really cool. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think that trial is really, really good. And I particularly enjoyed the fact that even the normal one was challenging, because again, most of the raids that you do in normal mode is just content that is there, but, you know, pretty much anybody can go through it. Like, people can die 5 times in the same encounter and you still make through it. So I was happy that that one was a little bit more challenging. But yeah, so dungeon cool, trial cool, even though with the downsides that I said about the dungeon. But anyway, after the trial, really cool moment, because during the trial, essentially Elidibus kills you. And I mean, kills you, paralyzes you. I kind of forget. It's been a while since I did the trial. And then Emmett Selk shows up and saves you. And when he initially showed up, I thought it was the other guy. His name starts with an H, the other ancient Hithlodeos or whatever, the guy who calls you new old friend or whatever. I thought that was the guy that was showing up, but then as he leaves, he does the traditional Emmett Selk, like, you know, and I was like, holy crap, that was Emmett Selk just like showing up with his last energy, I assume, to kind of save our asses against the Elidibus, which was pretty cool. And then kind of like it is implied, a couple of things are implied once you actually beat him. Like the fact that, oh crap, I didn't even talk about the Elidibus bringing his trump card, which is right as you finish the fight and, you know, it looks like you won, Elidibus starts winning again. And then friggin' Graatia shows up and it's just like, I'm gonna take your soul using the power of the tower. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And he slams down the staff as he always does and starts like imprisoning Elidibus in the tower, which, by the way, interesting thing, if he's imprisoned within the Crystal Tower, could there be a potential that this is maybe not the last time that we see Elidibus? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see if that is the case or not. I'm very curious, but I hope not, right? I expect, I like that when my enemies are defeated, they remain defeated. Like, sure, a couple of things coming back is whatever, but don't make a habit of it like you did Xenos, and we'll talk more about Xenos in a couple of minutes, right? But anyway, that whole thing goes down, and Graha, as he does that, he uses the last of his strength, and he essentially dies. There's a really cool moment during the spell where Graha's strength kind of falters and he starts falling down, and then our character grabs the staff alongside him to kind of like, I don't know, channel ether to help with the spell actually working. And that was really cool. I like how they always keep your character involved in the main things, and at the end of the day, you're still the protagonist of Final Fantasy XIV, which is nice. But, you know, ultimately, Gratia becomes a big old crystal in the crystal tower, but you do have his mind and memory in the crystal thing that he made for himself that you then take back to the source. But that whole thing takes place, and you find out that Elidibus, at least I think that is what is implied, Elidibus was essentially a child when he was sacrificed, so to speak, to become Zodiac's heart. I think that there's a lot of interesting, theories that you can draw from that. I do hope that they dive a little bit more into that, but, not too in depth, but I'm pretty sure that you have a bunch of lore people already talking about the specifics of why he was a child and all of that, but it is interesting that he shows up as a child and you give them the symbols and whatnot that you got from Ithlodeus back in Amaro. But yeah, that's essentially the trial and the dungeon and a big portion of the MSQ, because after that it's just everybody kind of like saying their goodbyes on the first and eventually making their way back to the source. I might be missing a couple of things here and there because it has been a while since I did this quest. But ultimately everybody makes it back to the source, and then there's a really cool cutscene that a lot of people are saying is one of the best cutscenes in terms of like technical fidelity that we've seen in the game, because it's got, at least it seems like it's got some motion capture. The characters appear to be much more expressive, and I do agree the final cutscene was pretty cool. And ultimately you somehow reincorporate Grahatia's memories from the first into the Grahatia that is at the source, and Grahatia joins the Scions, which it's a neat little payoff, because ultimately that is what Grahatia always wanted. He just wanted to go on an adventure with the Warrior of Light and the Scions, and he kind of becomes a Scion ultimately, and I thought that was pretty cool, and I hope that we see more of Grahatia, because throughout Shadowbringers naturally he became a fantastic character. Even back in Crystal Tower, I remember when I was doing the Crystal Tower questline, I was like, this goddamn Makote always ahead of me, because he's kind of like ahead of you in the quests and whatnot. It was kind of cool. It was almost like a nice little rivalry leading up to the quest line of the Crystal Tower, and how everything pans out in the end, I thought was very nice. It wraps everything up with a nice little bow tie, and then afterwards naturally you get the meanwhile the meanwhile section where they kind of tell you what is happening, like over in Garlemald and all that. And that's when I was kind of disappointed, because like I liked everything that we experienced in the MSQ until that point. That point to me, I was like, yeah, sure, I get it. There's still this other Ascian over here, and there's Xenos, and it's like it just brought back the memory that like, oh right, Xenos is still alive. Oh man, this guy just doesn't know how to stay dead. I don't like the fact that Xenos is alive, to be honest. I don't like the fact that Xenos just like came back from the dead using his artificial echo or whatever and possessed a Gridanian soldier, then jumped to a Garlean soldier, if I remember correctly, and then challenged, who was it that was on this body at the time? Was it Elidibus? I think it was Elidibus who was at his body. And then he challenged Elidibus and won and got his body back. Xenos' arc after he committed suicide is so friggin' weird to me. And it's something that up until this point, I don't like. But ultimately, the story of, the story arcs that we have seen have always managed to surprise me in the positive, despite the fact that the start of Stormblood still sucks. I'm sorry. I really don't like the start of Stormblood. I think it's real bad. And I even think the starting zones of Stormblood are real bad, but it is what it is. But the story itself, I like, right? The evolution. So I hope that they have some kind of interesting plan for Xenos that doesn't involve like, oh yeah, Xenos is going to redeem himself just like Gaius and you guys are going to become best friends. Because like, no, I don't want to become best friends with Xenos, okay? I'm not even sure I want to become best friends with Gaius. I keep Gaius at like arm's length, but I do like his character progression, so I'm like, But the worst part of that was when they reveal that the dude inhabiting the body of Asai. For a moment I was almost like, dude, I hope Asai survived. But no, it's just another Ascian, as it was probably revealed previously, but because I think I remember some point at 5.2, I think when they revealed that, I was like, there's an Ascian in Asahi's body. I don't remember if it was actually confirmed because again, it's been a long time since that, but it was very disappointing from the point of like, you beat Elidibus. I was gonna say you kill, but technically you imprison him. You defeat Elidibus, right? It's like, great, we're done. We're done with the Ascian menace. Let's see what comes afterwards. And I was like, oh no, here's another Ascian. And I was like, oh no. Here we go again. And then he's celebrating the fact that, oh, could it be that all of the Unsundered are dead? And I'm thinking to myself, does that mean that there's a million of you Sundered Ascians out there? And after we defeat Fandaniel, another one's gonna pop out of the woodworks? Like, I hope that's not the case, dude. Don't keep Ascians like coming out of nowhere, please. But again, it's one of those things, right? You never know what's gonna happen next in the story. So the way that the story's been going so far, I'm definitely willing to give it a chance to see what comes afterwards. But I didn't like the meanwhile section of 5.3. I'm just gonna be real there, and the fact that Xenos is back, I don't like Xenos. I don't care about him anymore. I even wish that like Xenos would just walk out of his throne, trip over, and kill himself in his own sword, like by an accident or something completely hilarious. I'd actually rather something ridiculous like that happen than us actually fighting Xenos again. I'm just not interested in defeating Xenos again. It just doesn't seem like an interesting thing to do. So I hope that whatever they do with the story, is not just, oh, we're gonna fight Xenos again. Okay, I guess. And Fandaniel also, I was like, okay, so he's an exaggerated, unhinged Ascian. Could be interesting, but at the end of the day, it's just like, he's another Ascian. Are we gonna keep bringing up Ascians after we defeated the main 3 Ascians? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen with that, but I am curious naturally to see all of that jazz. Anyway, but that's kind of like the MSQ in a nutshell. So after that, we do I did the G Warrior section. Actually, before that, I did the Nier raid, but we'll talk about the Nier raid after the G Warrior section, because G Warrior is essentially single player content that you can do. It follows on the Omega Ruby. Is it Omega Ruby? Ruby weapon? I don't know. I'm still very fresh on a lot of these topics, so bear with me. But we do the Ruby weapon. Yeah, it's Ruby weapon, definitely. We do the Ruby weapon thing, and if you've done the Ruby weapon, you can then follow up on that quest line and go talk to Gaius, and you go and face off against the Sapphire weapon, except this time we have the G Warrior, which is something that Sid worked on based on, I think, on the designs of the Ultima weapon or something. But he worked on this G Warrior that's basically a mecha. It's an anime mecha. And it reminded me a lot of Evangelion, so I was like, holy crap, dude, this is gonna be sweet. Even though I think that the main inspiration is probably Gundam. But dude, the mecha thing was just like really cool, and you do the mission and you defeat the Sapphire weapon. And one of the things is a lot of people were clamoring like, oh, we wanted a trial just like we got for Ruby weapon. And I can see that. I think a trial would have been more fun, but ultimately, how do you decide which player gets to fly the big mech, right? And how are the other players supporting? Because it's really cool to have a mission where you're basically piloting a mech. And this is a mech that does like Kamehamehas and stuff. So it's extremely over the top, but very fun in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. And after that, you can actually go and take pictures with your character sitting on the shoulder of the mecha, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that. So I was happy about that. It just kind of sucks that you can't repeat it. Like, I wish you could repeat that mission. And I'm sure that they'll eventually add it like a New Game Plus or something, but it was a really cool mission to do, and it was a lot of fun. And it was just something that, again, just shows the level of creativity and the level of passion that went into this patch. Because, like, it's just like, we're just gonna have this mecha section because why not? Why not? Just have a mecha section in our MMO. Just go for it. And I thought it was cool. It was really cool. But anyway, we also had the new Nier raid being added into the game, which is a fantastic raid. I really enjoyed the Copied Factory. This new one is the Puppet's Bunker. This time around, there's also, you actually get to see a bunch of Nier androids come in and bomb the people of Comra, if I remember correctly. Is it Comra? I think Comra is the one where the Gogs are. They basically bomb the whole place during a celebration, stuff explodes, and then it's revealed that 2P was actually a villain this whole time, as 2B shows up to kind of like save the day, which is cool. And then you go into the puppet's bunker and you fight off against a lot of really cool bosses. I particularly enjoyed the triple boss, where it's got all of these cool mechanics and people have to be careful about where they aim their lasers, where the slashes are coming from. That was a boss that I thought was very creative and I really, really enjoyed it. The one with the pods, the tank with the pods, that was also pretty freaking crazy. The trash between the tank with the pods and the final boss, very, very creative, where you actually have to do bullet hell and stuff like that. Pretty cool, because it incorporates a lot of stuff that is naturally from Nier, if you've played Nier. And the final boss, also very impressive. I greatly enjoyed that raid. And I'm pretty much doing it every single week for the coins and even for the gear, because I wanted to get myself the coat of fending, which I've gotten, so that you have like a black coat for your character. I don't know how many of those are in like older dungeons and whatnot, but the Nier one looked pretty damn sweet, so I wanted to have one for my tanks. But yeah, Nier raid, really, really enjoy it. Really, really good stuff. And if you enjoy Nier, I'm sure that you're going to love the new Nier raid as well. And finally, the Dwarf Beast Tribe. And this was actually something that, good God. So I was thinking about, for those of you that don't know, I wanted to do the Dwarf Beast Tribe. I knew that I wanted to do it because those of you that know me know that I'm crazy about dwarves. I really like the whole notion of dwarves. And back in World of Warcraft, I played a dwarf. And, you know, I'm not super into Lalafels, even though I am playing as a Lalafell right now. I'm much more into the idea of the dwarves of the first than just Lalafels in general. But you know, I really wanted to engage in that storyline, and I was actually leveling up a miner, and then I realized, oh no, this is only crafters, so I need to level up a crafter. So within 2 days after the patch, I leveled up the crafter to 70, actually. With the help of Cosbos, I leveled up a crafter like super fast, lightning speeds, and went on ahead to do the Dwarven Beast Tribes. And by now I actually finished it, and I have my tank. And I can tell you that is a really, really cool quest line. I really enjoyed that. It's one of the best side quests that I've done in Final Fantasy XIV is that one. You know, the stuff that happens in between the story, the fact that, you know, near the end, you need to build 5 tanks, and instead of just building 4 more tanks like the one that we did, the leader of the dwarves just goes like, nah, dude, I'm just gonna build a factory and get automatons and just build like this whole production facility. And I was like, wait, what? And then eventually the day comes and we don't have all the tanks ready. And so our mission is to go and get the dwarves drunk so that they're late to the demonstration of the tanks. I just thought it was really cool. And it was very well animated, that last quest that I did right before you get the tank, because they actually get like the swirly bits on their eyes. And it's, you know, you can tell that the animation, the crew that does animation for these cinematics has been, they've been getting better and better with their process, at least in my opinion. And yeah, it was a very, very enjoyable quest line, super fun. And yeah, basically I can't wait for more. Ultimately, I love this patch. The one thing that I didn't like I said, was the Xeno/Fandaniel section of the MSQ, which is a very minor thing. But just because, like, dude, I just want us to be done with Xenos, just be done with it. Be done with the Asians and move forward. And I can't wait to see what comes next. And, you know, pretty soon we're going to have the Baja front as well, which I want to be doing because that's going to be the first relevant relic weapon that I'll be farming. I've been farming the Paladin relic weapons as well for Realm Reborn. And I've gotten to the books part, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you? Make this thing easier, please. But yeah, I think I've rambled on for quite enough. This video is probably going to be a lot bigger than I even intended, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it anyways. Thank you all very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy the video, hit the dislike button. Feedback is important. Be sure to hit me up with some comments if you have anything to say. Subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay safe out there. Stay strong. Peace out.